Rachel.
Hello, Ryan.
How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Oh, I am doing fantastic. I am here with you talking about science fiction television. Isn't that the greatest dream a person can have, is to watch sci-fi TV with someone else? That's my dream. When I was a little kid, I thought to myself, oh man, I can't wait for the girl that I marry to be a schmuck that watches sci-fi TV with me. That's the dream I had, and well, here I am today, living the dream. How about yourself? How are you doing?
That was not my dream, but it tracks that it was yours.
What was your dream? What was your dream, Rachel? Was it to host a podcast that's extremely yum? Was that the dream you had as a little youngling?
No. Yum Yum had not entered my universe at that stage.
What a innocent time that was.
I had Raw XD.
Okay. No dreams from Rachel, though. She can't muster up anything. She's giving me these looks and going, I don't know, did I dream? You're the type of person who had dreams. Come on, you wanted to move to the big city and get out of your small country town.
Yeah, I wanted to not live with my mom anymore. That was a big dream.
You did it.
I did it.
And now she can listen to us watch The Expanse for the first time and what our thoughts are, our experiences, and dare I even say, feelings.
But even she has to wait for it to come out on the main feed.
Yes.
She's no patron.
Your mum should be a patron of our Patreon, and especially everyone should be, because if you join our Patreon, you can listen to this series where we're exploring The Expanse right now. You can just skip ahead of the queue because we release this for our patrons first and then onto the main feed. So come on over. You get to be a part of the group Discord if you do as well, and you can chat with everyone and make jokes about how we keep not liking Miller's hat. That's been a big controversy, is the lack of Miller hat love.
Mm-hmm.
I've been getting some messages about that. Someone on Twitter messaged me about that. So a lot of controversies.
Complained about me not liking his haircut as well?
I think everyone's in agreement on that. So we're Yum Yum because of Star Trek Discovery gave an amazing line, Yum Yum, and we were so inspired we had to name ourselves after it. And I just want to know right now from you, Rachel, what was the episode of The Expanse we watched today? What was the one that we sat down, put the Blu-ray in, and pressed play on? Or while you're getting the information up, just a quick annoyance that I have. We have this on Blu-ray. I do not like when I get DVDs, especially of modern shows, that keep the previously ons. I really don't like that. I think that once you release this on physical media, you don't need those. I can understand it for previous shows like in Star Trek The Next Gen where there's a quaint charm when it was a two-parter Once in a Blue Moon and you would get Major Barrett's voice, but I really don't like that because I have to fast forward it, and even then, the first image I see gave me a clue to what was going to happen in the episode with the robotic hamster. I think once we get physical media, you don't need that as a part of the episode. Now, what episode did we watch?
Back to the Butcher.
And what does IMDb say the plot is?
The crew has survived the loss of the Canterbury and the Donager and are contacted by an unlikely ally. Miller, on Ceres, continues his investigation and his thoughts of a conspiracy grow.
Have you seen the footage of Havelock and Cathari? Planning on doing anything about it?
Yeah, I was planning on hunting the guy down and killing him. Real slow.
Who did you find to be Yum Yum in this? Where when we say Yum Yum, that usually has a bit of a sexual connotation when you say that, like, yum yum. Who did you find to be a hot piece of Yum Yum? I personally found Naomi pretty yum in this episode. She's walking around in these overalls, yelling at a bunch of guys and wanting to punch a ship that knows too much. And I just said, whoa, hold me back. That there is a hot piece of yum. What about you? Who did you find to be yum?
This is I'm going to be honest and say I found the sleaze and the moral, the lack of morals attractive.
Yeah. For who, Rachel?
For Jared Harris.
For who, sorry? Anderson Dawes, you mean? I mean, Jared Harris is a sexy motherfucker anyway.
Yeah.
He's both creepy looking and a gentleman. Yeah. Oh, how could you forget Anderson Dawes? That's a fair pick. I liked him a lot in this one as well. Now, to give some quick fire thoughts, some impressions that we got from this, I'm going to throw it over to you. What are yours?
It's good. It feels like it's another solid episode that's building on the foundations that they've laid. And again, in this episode, I found myself really enjoying the way that they're building up the world visually through their tech. Like the body bag situation where it inflates and freezes.
Yeah, it almost looks like it's hovering.
Yeah.
It's just so...
And there's something unsettling about it as well, as it feeling like a moment of sort of remembrance for a life lost, and that Alex is doing that. Like, it's layering all of these things up in a visual way, and I appreciate that.
I was really drawn to the different structure of the episode. We got a flashback sequence that was a framework throughout.
Yeah.
I really like what they're doing with Fred Johnson as a character. I liked him in that previous episode. The conversation he had with the Mormon was really great, and they're continuing to make him a really, like, I want to know more about him. I want to follow him more.
Mormon.
No, but just him as a character, because now we have this new layer, like this new understanding of him. It makes him all the more fascinating. But I'm going to be on a different end of this to you. This was my least favorite episode we've watched thus far. I was really not engaged with this one. I just zoned out. And when I say zone out, it wasn't as if I didn't pick up what was going on. I just wasn't engaging with it. I just was listless during lots of this. I kept looking at my watch going, okay, I get the point.
It's
when
the
are we...
second lowest rated episode on IMDb that we've watched.
I thought that after the last couple, this was a real step down, and I think I'm officially I've been flip-flopping. I've been wanting to give him a chance because I like Thomas Jane, but I think I'm officially on the I don't give a fuck about Miller and his plots. If you've listened to this podcast...
I still don't really give a fuck about any of them, to be honest.
Oh, I disagree, but...
You disagree that I...
Yeah, I disagree. I think when you watch it, you are very engaged when Alex and Amos are on the screen talking to one another. I actually do disagree with that. Like, when you're sitting there watching it with me, you do get very active when they are on the screen talking to one another and being there. But what I was going to say... Actually, quite a bit in this one.
Two of them are talking to each other. Anyway.
But I don't care about Miller, honestly. And if people have listened to the pod, especially our Babylon 5 discussions, I guess... Sci-fi and detective do not mix well.
Cops.
I like cop shows and movies, so that's why it dumbfounds me. But when it comes to sci-fi, I guess it is a thing where I just sit there going, I don't want this, actually. And so every scene with him, he was just doing the most generic cop shit to me, and I just was grinding my teeth going, okay. And that's the majority of the episode.
He's pissing Havelock off in the fucking hospital.
There's no Chris Jen in this episode.
Well, of course you hate this episode.
Yeah, maybe that's a factor. It didn't have that special spark that makes this series stand out from the others in its contemporaries. I would say Fred Johnson helps make it stand out, but Chris Jen really does do that, and she wasn't here. I mean, just to talk about that for the briefest of moments, what did you think of that? Did you even notice it while you were watching the episode that we weren't cutting to her, that we weren't cutting to Earth?
Yeah, because I was like, oh, they've still got 3 plots going on, but they've replaced the UN plot with the flashback to the station that gets
Yeah, that's the
everybody gets
substitute. And
spaced.
in part, that does involve Earth and the UN.
Yeah.
But not our main characters that we were following during that. So maybe that is also a huge factor. Now, I will admit, egg on my face, I didn't think about her right up until we got the basically title drop of the episode when Fred Johnson's title of The Butcher of Anderson Station came up and he was like, UN. I'm like, oh yeah, where is Christian in this? So to give it some praise, I think it clicked along well enough without her here, but I mean, here I am saying it's my least favorite and she isn't here. Maybe that's actually the reason.
Have luck. You don't listen. I told you. I said keep your head down, keep your eyes open. Especially in the Medina.
Or maybe I really wasn't into this because it was what I predicted at the end of our last discussion of things I don't want, which is Havelock's going to live. There's going to be fucking drama about that. The cops are going to get all up in arms and go after the guy that did it to him. The guy that did it to him is going to be this elusive figure that we'll have to chase for an episode or two, and Miller is going to have to begrudgingly deal with that whilst also dealing with the Julie Mao case. I said that at the end of our last discussion as I really don't want that, and that's what we got. So
Too bad. You got the boilerplate version of this episode.
I thought you were going to say, too bad, you lose. Good day, sir.
Good day, sir.
I have vented about Havelock and how I do not care for him. That is very clear. But I want to hear from you a bit more when it comes to Havelock. He is here. He's living. Could you talk to me a bit about not only the scene, but I just want to hear more from you about what you think of this character.
He's nothing. He's an idea at this point. He doesn't feel like a character. He's the naive Earther who's come to Ceres to try and make a difference, and he's befriended a sex worker and he gets judged for that.
Yeah.
It's just really dull.
She loves him and is willing to fight a cop over for him. Isn't that... That's the story.
Yeah, but I don't buy it at the same time.
What does she see in him? That's the thing. Like to give...
because he doesn't treat you like trash?
He's a cop with a heart of gold. That's why. He's a cop with a heart of gold. Unlike you, Miller. You're a pig. You're a fascist. You're an evil cop. She is played by the actress of Lieutenant Nielsen from Star Trek Discovery. And unlike that character in Star Trek Discovery, this one allows her to perform something. And I will give her credit where it is due. She's very good in this role. I think that she demonstrates a strong-willed character with an inherent cultural background that is the definer of them as well. I want to lay that all on the shoulders of the actor here, but when it comes to what we see of her in this show, it is very distressing to me that she is not only the sex worker who is like this fawn-like creature who helps humanize the cop man, but I also find it a bit boring and lame and odd too that she's the native, basically, the indigenous person who has helped him understand the culture, and now he's fallen in love with her, and we've seen this be something in many things as well. It's almost like a Dancing with Wolves Avatar thing, right?
I went with Pocahontas.
Pocahontas.
But there's so many.
Would you be more forgiving of this? Because this is a critique that could be thrown at many shows that we watch. But would you say you would be more forgiving of this if Havelock was a far more electrifying character, or do you think inherently their relationship as it is would still be a roadblock for you?
I don't think I would think of it as quickly because there's a lack of any interest in what's happening. I'm flipping through sort of like the different lenses that I can put on this, and it's like, oh yeah, this is one of those stories that still feels a little bit gross to me in a weird way. But I don't think I'd be as quick to analyze it in this way if I did enjoy it more and I was more interested in the relationship between those two characters. But because it really feels like cop plus native person.
Mm-hmm. Person who can teach him the culture.
Yeah.
Person who can make him no longer the earther who doesn't know anything. I thought that scene was embarrassing, honestly, like that whole hospital bedroom scene. I thought it was weirdly blocked and choreographed, and Havelock is, I think, just truly, truly the worst thing in the show. And so the scene is embarrassing too because he's trying to be all possessive, angry guy because Miller is talking smack about the woman he presumably loves now.
Yes,
and
I
very
just
much
didn't buy that.
It's very much
like, I get that you have a relationship and that you've built this connection and you care about each other, but I'm like,
I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. I don't feel a romantic chemistry. Definitely a friendship.
Yeah. Mentor.
I get the sense that like they have a mutual respect for each other.
Yeah.
But not, I'm assuming, some level of sexual attraction as well as romantic attraction.
Havelock, his characterization is very strange as well because on paper, if I said what it is, you could look at me and say, well, that sounds interesting, but they've skipped a lot of steps. So what I'm going to lay out is, on paper, he comes across as the fresh-faced, innocent foreign guy who's come here to be the policeman, and he thinks that his by golly gee ways will help save the day. But through his
One person can make a difference.
One person can make a difference, but through his experiences and underestimating the people, as well as his own shitty partner, he becomes bitter about the world around him. He becomes a darker character than we started. His naivete when it comes to Miller is now formed into cynicism. That could be good. That would be great.
Yeah.
That there would be a great season-long story with Havelock. But the thing is,
the show's too crowded to do that.
The show's too crowded. They've skipped all these steps, and the biggest thing is they forgot to make Havelock a character in his own right, instead of just a mechanism to distribute themes and ideas and be audience surrogates.
Man, the next spike's gonna go right through your skull.
Yeah, coming from a real fountain of police wisdom. You know, look the other way, take your bribe, do as little as possible.
Hey, you see any extra holes in me, pal?
He was brave for come check on me. Or the police no come down to the Roseboro.
Havelock's attacker is on the loose, and the police are up in arms about it. They're basically in a frenzy. He's one of ours, Havelock. He may be new, he may be an earther, but he's one of ours. We need this guy. So Miller is having to put the Julie Mao thing to the side for the moment, and he has to he barely wants to, but he kind of has to look into the Havelock thing. He's as interested.
He doesn't really want to.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, yeah, I don't give a shit about this either. So.
But you know who gives a shit? Jared Harris. Anderson Dawes gives a shit. I saw his name in the titles, and you pointed it out. Oh, Jared Harris is in this one. And even when he popped up, I was still surprised, like, oh, Jared Harris. It's you.
Ooh.
Anderson Dawes. And I'm going to just say this right now. I like Anderson Dawes as a character mainly because Jared Harris, but also what he is fascinating. But
there's a lot to play with there, and it feels like it's a kind of character that I haven't really seen before. Whereas I've seen lots of guys like Havelock
or Miller.
But so many like Miller.
Anderson Dawes is the embodiment of a problem I've had routinely with Miller's side of the story, which is it's the writers just blatantly hitting me in the face with messages and themes. Anderson Dawes gives us the information about this guy that they've captured. Here's what I need. Here's what I want. But what he is mainly doing in the scene is just saying to us, hey, Miller, you're a belter underneath it all, and you want to have a free belter life, don't you? I want this belt to be free of the earthers. Like, I get it. This has been very...
I just want equality.
I just want equality, and I'm willing to do dirty things to get it done, as you are willing to get dirty things to get what you need done. It's not bad, but I've heard it so many times in a row in this side of the story that I just... Anytime they're doing it now, even if it's from the beautiful mouth of Jared Harris, I'm sighing. It tires me.
Okay. Yeah, whatever.
Now, you like Anderson Dawes as well, so what do you think about the scene overall and how he plays into this episode?
I really enjoyed it as a sort of philosophical problem that they present, and we watch Miller go through the process and then decide what to do with the phone and to do with that opportunity, and the fact that he refuses to engage with it because it's not worth it. It's not worth getting in bed with Anderson Dawes. Like, yeah, it would be great to get that dude. The OPA is clearly going to make it impossible for us to get him if I don't do this. But I'm not willing to compromise myself in that way.
The phone was a great little button through that scene as well, but a device for showing us Miller's confliction during the episode, because he does not care about being the good cop.
No.
But he does not want to be the I'm a belter like how he is being told he should be. He doesn't want to do that either. What he wants to do is stroke his ego, and this opportunity would allow him to do the cop thing to the best of, to save the day and whatever, and maybe also help out with what is being peddled to him. But he has this phone, he has this opportunity, and like we've seen with Miller, he throws it away. He literally throws it in the trash.
Yeah.
And
because that way nobody else can get it as well. Like, and everything on series is recycled. Even the bodies.
And on a symbolic level, he throws it away. He throws it in the garbage, and shortly after that, he gets a bag put on his head and taken away. I'm assuming by the OPA. I would imagine it's the OPA. Because they also don't really like him, even though Anderson Dawes is trying to woo him and tempt him. The performance as well as the dialogue makes it very clear that Miller does not have a position where these conversations could continue on for too much longer, because Miller is just such a brick wall that this will end soon. Like, that's the attitude with Anderson Dawes, talking of like, I'm giving you the opportunity to benefit me and the OPA, and if you don't, you will be over, okay?
You're either in or you're out.
And Miller doesn't give a fuck because he wants to solve the case because he has an ego to solve. I actually rather like that scene where he was talking with his, his boss, his other partner, I guess his new partner. Now Havelock's out of the scene, out of the job for the time being, about how you should take this up higher. You should take this up higher. You've stumbled across something big. Why aren't you doing it? And he feels like he is owed this this job of, I am the guy who will find the girl.
He wants to be the chosen one.
He wants to be your typical detective in your noir. I'm going to find the girl. I'm going to punch out the baddie. I'm going to smoke my cigarettes and wear my hat.
And usually we find that an admirable trait. But here, it's him being dangerous in the pursuit of fulfilling that egocentric need. And also in a lot of other things that do that, they don't go higher up because they know that there's some level of corruption and we see that corruption. I am thinking LA Noire.
That's a great one.
As a go-to example of that. You can't go higher up because higher up is corrupt. So there's no point. You need to keep it going yourself until you find the answers, and then you can take it somewhere when you've got enough proof.
And he likes pulling on the yarn and seeing where it takes him. And so Miller is on the case. He's finding all of these different avenues to find more evidence and get more information. It's all... The case in this episode isn't necessarily giving us big revelations. This isn't giving us anything more to go on. This is so much of him gathering little bits, little pieces, and these will form into something grander over the course of the season.
And also, sort of connecting back to things that he's discovered in other episodes and how that all is... the jigsaw pieces are starting to fit together. He's got these separate parts, but now he's able to join things up a little bit more.
Yes. We have that body from the previous episode, and that helps leads him to this person, and this person helps leads him to that person. And we got the robotic hamster, and that has a thing inside of it that he takes out, and he has that now that he can go off of. And she had a guy that used to fly ships for her that we find out is also a lover of hers, and he has lots of information about what Julie is like as a person and how her getting embroiled in something bigger, her going over the top is a surprise to this guy, but also not really. So it makes it harder to know if Julie has stumbled into something, been forced into something, or she has willingly gone into something far greater than she is able to handle. It's that there I actually quite like because...
she's in over her head, but how she got there, we don't know.
I really like that as a ambiguous thing to juggle because the narrative has been she's daddy's little rich girl who's gone away to be a protester and now she's been kidnapped as a prize, as a piece of blackmail, as something to profit off of. But we are pushing the ball down the court more to say, no, she is not that. She is stubborn. She is prideful. She is also a noble person. And she has probably gotten herself into this. She has done it rather than she has just been a pawn for something greater, something else.
Yeah.
And I think that adds some great dimensions to this.
Yeah. And it's interesting how they're making her a character through her absence.
Yeah, I think that is really great too, because I was curious if we were going to have a framing device with her, if we were going to cut to her and what she's up to, and then eventually it would all culminate with her plot and Miller converging. But no, she's just here through the words of other people and photographs and recordings. And that's really neat. Now, could you break down a bit more of Miller's case, what he's gathering, what he's found, who he's talked to?
Well, like you've already briefly sort of summarized it of like he gets this information and clicks into this and goes into that. So we had the body of the tech guy from last episode, and he
Had the thing in his leg.
had the thing in his leg that they got. Now Miller's tracked down this other dude, that the ex-lover. He says, go to this place, say this keyword, go to the back room. That's where he worked out of. And then Miller figures out,
The guy makes hamsters.
yeah. Is it a hamster or a mouse?
A mouse, hamster, guinea pig, some fucking rodent.
It's a rodent.
Someone's going to
It's
come in.
an animatronic rodent. And then he goes and takes the little SD card looking thing
That's
out
in
of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it.
We don't have a great understanding what's on it yet.
We know that he scans for it.
Mm.
Like he's checking if there's anything stored on the ones that are like sitting on the table.
He's also been analyzing during the episode the flight path and plan of the was it the scopuli? And so that there is also being underlined in the episode of, hey, remember the ship she was on and how it got there.
How this set everything off.
And we also know that she was pretty high up in leagues with the OPA. Anderson Dawes has been playing it off as, oh, she was one of ours. I know of her. But now we definitely know, no, he knew her. She was
working with him.
Very, very closely knit with him. So I think that's not a surprise. Like, that's one of those where it's like, yeah, Miller, I think you could have worked off of that basic assumption from the very get-go.
Strange times indeed.
Call it a conflict of interest.
Whatever gets you through the day, Baratna. So keeping the peace.
I have three funny observations about Miller's plot. One, his shoes were off.
Yeah.
Thomas Jane, that dude hates things on his feet.
You yelled that when you
I was like,
saw his
oh
feet.
my God, he's got no shoes on. Yay. He was at home, so I'll give him the, fair shake on that. The other was he was walking through, I do believe it was that area to the back room where the guy worked, and there was that music playing that I always hear on Red Letter Media.
The stock music.
I don't know if it's stock music or just a famous piece of like jazzy music, but I hear it in a lot of YouTube videos, and so I had a big chuckle at that.
Yep.
And the third fun thing that I think, we have to at least mention it because it is here in the ether of the episode. And
you already mentioned the hat.
Oh, well, I thought the fun thing was he found the photograph and put it inside of the hat. Like, the hat now is functioning in the story. It's no longer just a thing that people go, metaphor, metaphor.
It wasn't just a photograph, was it?
Oh, yeah, he puts the chip in there too.
Yeah.
But he puts it in there. But like,
yeah,
the hat now is serving a literal purpose in the plot. And I just want to cheer at that alone because it's only been there as a thing that people point to and just say, do you get it, audience? We're making a little metaphor here, a little theme, an ongoing thing with the hat.
It's trying to be like an earther.
Trying to be like an earther. So those are my funny little observations about Miller and his story. I'm being harsh on Miller, and I have now gravitated towards Holden and that crew. How do you feel about that, though? When we talk about this show, you still have that quick reflex to say that you don't care about characters.
Yeah, I'm still at that point where, I do like some characters more than others. Like, you pointed out that I like Alex. I find him fun.
Mm-hmm.
And some other members of the crew. But I don't care what happens to them. I'm like at that stage where I just kind of find some of them more entertaining than others, but I'm not super invested because I'm like, I'm still getting to know you. I don't know how much I care about you, but some of you I'm more drawn to than others. It's just like, okay, I don't really care what happens. You're just gonna do the things and the things will happen.
Yeah.
But with this plot, I'm like, okay, it's doing the things, it's chugging along.
This one's a breather a little bit.
Yeah, like it does feel like this plot's slowing down a bit and the Miller one is the one that's ramping up, because you don't want to have all of the storylines on full throttle
All the time.
Like this is like episode 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not right for the season pacing. Yeah, like it's just not the way that things work.
I think I am more excited about what happens to them. And this is modern television. This statement I'm going to make is modern TV. And we have seen this be poorly done with Star Trek Discovery. And we're seeing it being fairly well done here. I'm not blown away, but what it is I feel like we've finally exited the pilot. Like, this feels like, oh, they've got on the ship, their ship. This must be like, I'm assuming this is their ship because they have this set and they're having this banter about it and they've already forming a relationship with
themselves.
it. Yeah, they've named it and they're finding their own quarters and Naomi has the thing. It feels like, oh, we've reached the end of the pilot. Because compare this to many other science fiction shows. I thought of Farscape a lot during this, of Farscape, 45-minute pilot, gives you so much bam, 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 and by the end of it, John Crichton is on this ship with a ragtag crew of people he doesn't know he can trust.
The setup to the series has happened.
There's an antagonist they have to run away from, and bam, we're here. In modern television, though, especially in ones like this,
it's got an opening arc, not just a pilot.
Basically, the opening act of the show is from 3 to 5 episodes, and I think that's fine. But now I'm more excited because, oh, we've got the ship. Oh, look, Holden finally gets some cup of coffee, like real coffee, and Amos gets to drink, and Naomi is upset about this ship, and she doesn't like it, and Alex is getting comfortable with this new, this new vessel. He gets to play with all the buttons and figure out how it works, and he gets to listen to his music. All of that there is not groundbreaking or even profound, but I liked having a bit of a breather in that way. This was more characterful to me than some of the other episodes when it comes to these guys. Just having them exchange dialogue back and forth, it felt very airy and relaxed.
One problem that they're dealing with, which allows you to showcase their responses because they have time to make a decision. It's not like when Holden decided to do the broadcast in the first place, where it was just like all of them are there, all of them have their own perspective, but he just fucking does it.
And not everyone is so heightened in drama and their emotions about where they land on this. Alex seemed like he could go either way with this, honestly. Amos, he was teaming with Naomi just for the sheer fact that he does always, but even then he's reluctant. And Holden was dickish and he got called out for being dickish. And Naomi, she was also being dickish and got called out for being dickish. It was the two characters who were very much like, I'm right and you're wrong about this. And the others were just vibing throughout it all, just wherever we land, we'll follow it. And I like that a lot. So I am more keen, but I mean, when we talk about how TV stories, like how TV shows structure their stories, I mean, what is your feelings overall on doing it like this? Because we have grown up with television changing into this and this being the standard for a lot of prestige dramas.
I don't know. Like, it does feel a little bit odd because, again, like, to circle back to your point about having the previously on. It's just like with the Expanse, you have to have footage from like 4 or 5 different episodes. Even though this is only the 5th, to get across all of the information that you need to understand this, because all of it's been set up. There's been no direct payoff, because it's a serialized show. So you need bits from all of these episodes that are creating this atmosphere and setting up these plots, compared to the TNG previously on, where it's 1 episode.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the setup was in 1 episode. And that just kind of amuses me that is like, that does reflect the state of those shows in a weird way. In a pretty obvious way. But I find it funny for whatever reason right now. And it's just like, okay, I just accept it. And sometimes I'm more okay with it than others. I'm more okay when it's character-led stuff that's doing the setup of the show and of the season. And if I haven't gotten to the point where I'm tired of the big bad cycle of the show, whatever it is.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with this, because there's a lot of shows that I love that do this, and they do it so well that I turn my brain off about how they structure things. But there's been so many that fail at it, or just miss the mark, or you stand back and go, oh, there was a lot of time wasting going on there. And I'm not saying The Expanse is wasting time. I'm not. But I think about like the Netflix Marvel shows back in the day, where you have the first 2 to 4 episodes are bangers. They're good, and if they're not good in that like instant satisfaction, they're good in the way of we're building up the world and the stakes. We're building, and then you have the middle chunk of episodes which are there. They take up time. They spin wheels, and then you get the exciting second to last episode that really ramps it all up, is basically a conclusion. Then you have the last episode that is a more solemn, contemplative one that takes a moment to look back at what we've done during the season and get ready for stuff in the next. Game of Thrones did that. Better Call Saul did that as well. And I'm not even talking about like the quality of these shows. I'm just talking about like that formula. And I'm feeling that with The Expanse right now, where it's like, oh, we're finally out of, well, I hope, but we're finally out of like what feels like the introductory phase, and now we can get going with like the real show. And I think that's why I'm also a bit detached with this episode, because I guess that spell has been broken where I see it as, oh, we're still like in this part of it. Like, I can't get over just saying, oh, they finally got on the ship. And maybe it's the trauma of having watched Star Trek Picard, where it took him like 4 to 5 episodes to finally get into space and traveling around. But that's just how I am with it.
Rocinante. Huh? It's Spanish for workhorse.
I like it. I knew a lady named Rocinante. She was good to me.
Whatever. Punch it.
The conflict, though, you did mention that there is one, and the conflict is Naomi and Holden do not agree on the proposal that is in front of them, which is to gain sanctuary and help from Fred Johnson, who is a figure we'll learn more about during this episode. But he is that guy that was working with the Mormons. He's on this station, and he's offering to help them, giving them advice of how to cover their tracks and everything like this. He's seeming very noble, very nice. And we learn from Naomi's experiences, she has to say that he's this monster of a man. And we know that he's in league with the OPA. And it seems like he's a pretty big deal for the OPA. And so Naomi is very much, it's not even specifically, she makes this point, it's not specifically just about Fred Johnson and his, like him as an individual, but what he represents. And if we team up with this type of man, if we give this type of man the credit that they're now a good person, we are on the road to ruin ourselves. And that's pretty good. That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah. And it's one where I'm like, okay, you've done this now, but what are you going to do next? At the same time, like, you've taken this much time. What is it going to be worth?
And there's not a lot dedicated to this. There's not a lot of arguments and dramatic scenes. There's those moments, and then Naomi mulling it over and being cranky in her bed, and then we get to it. Okay, let's phone up the devil. Let's make a deal.
With the butcher.
With the butcher. And there's a framing device that has been in the episode, which is we're flashing back 11 years ago to the Anderson station, and it is a group of miners, I do believe. They're like miners and operators who are on strike, and they are on strike, and they've been shut down. They're cornered in. They've got really nothing that they can do. And so we see that they have a conflict within their group and how they should go about things, mirroring what's happening with Holden and crew to a far more extreme and sad ending.
Yes. But it also helps up the feeling of the stakes with our crew, seeing that other situation led to a lot of death.
And if we do want to look at Fred Johnson as an individual, if you don't take an offer from him, you will die. Like, that's what we're getting to. Like, he offered these people the opportunity to stop what they were doing. They said no, and then that was one chance, and then you're gone. And we get this little thing of the guy that's in charge has a daughter, and I was rolling my eyes a little because, oh yes, the cute child, why, of course, and they're playing the game, but they did more with that.
I really liked that. Mm-hmm. I really liked it that it was, like, because they set it up and it's just like, oh, they're going to milk this. And then it's like, oh, no, not only have, like, they are doing it to milk it, to increase the tension and to increase the fear, and you're concerned for the health and safety of these people on this station.
They can't kill a little girl.
Because, like, is the show going to kill all of these miners and their wives and their children and everybody else that's, like, on board in this situation? And then it's like, oh, no, it's because of the kids that they're willing to do it, that they've done it. And then it casts another interesting light on those two figures that we've been seeing argue throughout the whole episode, of them with their children in that final sort of broadcast before they get spaced.
Before the ship gets blown apart. She also, the daughter, she helped solve a problem, which is she's playing that little game on her tablet thing, and it helps the dad realize that he can broadcast out, and so them getting executed in space will not be something that can be swept under the rug. This will go out, and people will remember this. This won't be in vain, and it will make the people who did this infamous. Hence, Fred Johnson is the butcher of Anderson Station. He is this figure that looms large, and yet when we see him in this one, he is always at a distance and small. Yet what he does here is massive. And you can tell why the OPA exists the way it does with an event like this happening. Because these people are trying to fight back for their not just their rights, but to save the children. That's literally what they want, is to save the children.
It makes you even more curious for us to understand his journey from standing on that Anderson station, watching all of these bodies go by, to being so integral in the OPA that he could lose his job.
And I do want to know how he goes from being this head of the Marines for the UN to being where he is now. And the mentality he has now as well is very mannered and civil, and I'm trying to be a good man. I thought this was the best part of the episode. I've given a lot of smacking on the hand to this, but man, I loved all of this. I thought this was spectacular. Again, another arresting image of the dad and the daughter holding each other floating in space. You don't forget that. I remembered that.
No. That's why I don't have any major qualms about this episode. It's not great. It's not bad. It's pretty solid. Like, this stuff is really good. This stuff is really interesting. Like, all of the plots have moved forward a little bit. Like, our understanding of Earth has moved forward thanks to those flashbacks. It's not stuff with Christian, which I know breaks your sweet little heart.
I miss Christian so much.
I know. But it's just like, I don't have any major issues with it. It just does what it does, and then it's kind of gone. Like, I do have trouble remembering everything that happens in the episode before we start recording. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, that thing happened, and that thing happened, and that thing happened. Like, it's not one where I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait to talk about all of these things.
It's not as thematically rich as the third episode, and it isn't as bells and whistles, balls to the wall as the one we just watched. This is serviceable. Again, I like it the least. But Fred Johnson, I'm keen to see more of him.
Yeah,
Love the performance. Love that performance.
I hope that they keep on threading it through nicely.
And the corporations, how much power and sway do they have where they can get the UN's Marines to squash a strike like this? We know that Julie Mao's family is one of the big rich corporations. Yeah. And so, again, there is this definite thread of capitalism in space where at first you're so drawn into the Cold War of these two great governments and military powers, but we're really getting this underlying thing that people with enough capital out there, people with enough money, can really be the folk that get the things moving. We see with the Mormons, they've got an ark being built. We see like this in the past of just they can sway the UN to do their dirty work for them.
When you were saying all of that, I was just like, I know where he's going with it, but I'm like, all of that setup also helps lead you towards the main focus of the show is the people who are caught in the middle. The powerless who are affected by the decisions of the powerful competing for more power.
She and the other children have been diagnosed with what the medics are calling hypoxic brain injury. It's due to the low oxygen working environments. She got it when she came to live here with me. The company is refusing us medical assistance, and they're denying that that problem even exists. We're not a violent people.
No one is going to be surprised what my rating is. On the scale of yum being bad and yum yum being good, I'm giving this a yum.
Yum.
Rachel, on our scale, yum or yum yum, where do you fall with this?
Yum yum.
Yum yum.
It's just okay. Like, there's nothing that was that bad about it. There was nothing that annoyed me or made me angry or made me go, why the fuck are we doing this show?
Not the scene where Miller was on the train and the lights went off and he tried to punch out a guy because he gave him a nasty look, and then the lights went on and everyone was saying, "Oh, you filthy cop, man, you stink. Cop's bad. Boo."
I did
That
like
scene
when he
was
was
bad.
interrogating Julie's former lover, and he's just referring to Miller as Badge.
He badge.
I really liked that. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, he badge. But okay, I want to know the title for the next episode. Now, we haven't watched this, don't know anything about it. We're going to look at the title,
Well,
make
this is
some
like the last episode that you watched
probably, yeah,
originally, right?
yeah,
You said
6
that-
or 7 episodes. So what's the next one?
Rock Bottom.
We're at rock bottom. Now, predictions for the future, or for the next episode. I hope the Mormons are in it. That's my big dream. I'm shocked, but I fucking love those freaks.
Yeah, because they're openly freaky.
Mormons in space.
Openly freaks.
Great idea. Great idea.
Yeah.
The capitalist religion, one of the capitalist religions in space. Perfect.
Perfect.
That's all I want.
I would love that too. I think Holden and the crew are going to get into some sort of battle again, because that's what they do. I think we're going to get a little bit more of the Havelock stuff. And maybe some repercussions for the fact that Miller threw out the phone. I think we're not gonna. But I don't think we're gonna get too much of Miller in the next episode. I think they're gonna milk
Him being kidnapped.
I
worry that it's going to be a big Miller has been kidnapped and the OPA.
I don't want that, so that's why I'm not predicting that.
Like Miller has to escape Anderson Dawes' men, and now he has Anderson Dawes after him while he tries to solve the case. Like,
or their rogue OPA,
mm.
and Anderson is trying to track them down. Or, wait, have they kidnapped him and they're gonna put him with the dude that did it to Anderson?
To Havelock, yeah. I don't know. We'll see next time. People, make sure to watch the episode yourself as well if you have the inclination to do so. You can follow us on your social media of choice under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. We post on there regularly, so you'll be seeing some fun posts from us. As mentioned at the top of this episode, we have a Patreon where we make so much content on there that you can benefit from. You can just eat it all up and say, yum, yum.
Bucket load after bucket load.
We have a group Discord that you can be a part of, and we also, just if you want to contact us more directly, we have an email, which is yumyumpod@gmail.com. Thank you all so much for tuning in and listening to us. It means so much. If you can, please share the show around. If you know people that like The Expanse, if you know people that like science fiction television and people talking about it, say to them, you should check out Yum Yum Podcast. They're this married couple, and they're watching The Expanse. They talked about Babylon 5. They even talked about Space Above and Beyond at one point. It would mean so much to us if you could just spread the word around. But that is all we have for you today. And the Gaunt Belter did not appear. But if he did, I would have cheered. And I would have said Miller's plot was good. Oh, if he was the one that put the bag over Miller's head, that would have been truly delightful. Oh, big bonus points to the Miller plot. Another fun detail. I'll end the episode. 4th fun detail. He gets tased, a bag put on his head, and people are just looking at it happening. And I saw one person in the background look, shrug, and then walk off. Perfect.
See you then. Well, voila.